All right. Yeah. Got a nice group here with us already. So why don't we get going? Got a really meaty topic today and a great speaker to tell us about it. So I'd love to get started. But thank you so much for joining and for being a Devex Career Account member. And I'm Justin Sablich, and I am a contributing editor with Devex. And today's topic is all about portfolio careers, which is a term you might have heard about or even have maybe you've even tried your own portfolio career in some form, or you're curious about making more of a shift into that type of career path. So today we have a ex I'd call it, you're an expert in this area for sure. Kelsi Kriitmaa is a guest coach in this social impact space and a consultant, and she's back with us to give us a nice overview and tell us how these work, how you can make them work and be successful, and it's also pros and cons and all that kind of stuff. So, Kelsi, sorry about my jumbled introduction. Thanks for
All
being here.
good. All good. Thanks, Justin. Hey, everybody. And I see people are still trickling in, but we'll go ahead and get started. So hi,
Yeah,
thanks for having me. This is
awesome.
my second session and a few kind of collaborations now that I've done with Devex, and I'm always really happy to be here. I think the questions and the granularity of the discussion are so great. So everyone, let's get started. I know it's the
Oh,
middle.
sorry.
Oh,
Oops,
go
sorry.
ahead, Justin.
Oh, sorry. I have to do just a minute of housekeeping and then
Oh,
we'll get
yes.
back to you. Sorry
Okay,
about that. I
go
didn't
for it.
remind you about that. It's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. But all this stuff I'm going to say, everyone pretty much knows already. A reminder, we will send out the full recording of the event after in the days that follow today's event. We will take questions. We have some questions that were submitted already, and you know how to you should you know how to ask new ones in the Q&A box or in the chat box. We'll work some questions in as we go, or we'll do some at the end. We'll whatever, we'll go with the flow on that. And just a reminder that today's event is 60 minutes long in total. That's it. Okay, back to you, Kelsey.
Great. Thanks, Justin. So yeah,
Yeah.
guys, this is a pretty informal event. For those of you who have attended some of my events with Devex before or through my own community, I am a very energetic speaker. I run through a lot of concepts. I like to have it really interactive, but generally the format of the sessions that I do are learn, do, share. So we're going to talk about some concepts. We're going to learn a little bit about something. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to kind of work on things on your own, and then I'm going to ask you to share it in the chat. And this is where this is really a coaching style type of a webinar rather than just a presentation and a Q&A. So I hope that suits everybody just fine. I'm looking forward to getting into, some of the nitty gritty of portfolio careers because it's not super simple. There's a lot to it. So we're going to jump into it. Give me a thumbs up. Justin, can you see my screen? Yes, he's nodding. Perfect. Fantastic. So guys, we're going to jump right into it. And I do have a deck. I promise it's not death by PowerPoint, but it is going to guide us through what are quite a few concepts and a framework that I like to teach in this space. So just give me a second. I'm going to move my box, my screens around so that I can see you guys in the chat. And I can see where people are coming from because I really like to know. So I see we have a few people from Paris, from Naples, London, Rome. Wow, we got big European contingent on here today. DC. Oh, hi, Sabahat. I know you. I'm seeing some familiar faces on here, which is great. Okay, guys, this is what we are going to cover today. So we're going to basically cover what the heck is a portfolio career? Why are we here? What is the good, the bad, and what I like to call the messy middle of a portfolio career? Because it is not always super straightforward. I'm going to give you guys some real life examples from my life, but also from people across the sector that I work with, that I coach, that I collaborate, that I consult with. Going to introduce all of you to my core framework, which is a framework to help you kind of outline and what you need to get started if you're thinking about a portfolio career. We're going to talk about things like income, revenue streams, time, energy. How do you actually make this work? Because yes, it sounds beautiful being your own boss, but there's also a lot of tough stuff too. And then I have a quick start framework that is basically a list of 5 things that you need to get in place before you shift. And then a quick start guide in terms of commitments. What can you guys do in the next 24 hours to just go ahead and get started right away? Because I like these sessions to be really, really practical. In the meantime, I would love for you to drop into the chat what draws you to the idea of a portfolio career. And please be honest, if you still don't know what a portfolio career is, that's okay too. Drop that into the chat. But it's nice for me to kind of get an idea what you guys are in terms where you are in terms of headspace. Are you already doing a portfolio career? Are you thinking about a pivot? Are you already dabbling? Are you still in full-time work? So tell me what draws you to the idea, but also give me an idea of where you guys are at in your personal employment consulting portfolio journey. So, Aurora, I see that you dropped in there freedom and variety. Yeah, those are two huge things, and they're two things that brought me to this lifestyle for sure. Usha, you're already there. Awesome. Edward, you want to understand the portfolio career? Yeah. Even, yeah, not to be tied to one employer. That's a huge one, guys. And particularly with everything that's happened this year with USAID and the shifts to the international development sector, what a better time to start diversifying our career paths than now, if we haven't done so already or if we've been forced to do so. So before we jump into it, a little bit about me, because you're probably wondering what the heck gives me the right to even be sitting here, standing up here talking about it. So for those of you that I've met or I've seen before, this is repetition. Feel free to tune out for a minute. But essentially, my name is Kelsi Kriitmaa. I'm the founder of Kriitmaa Coaching and Consulting. I'm originally from Canada. I spent most of my career on the African continent, and now I live in Geneva with my beautiful family. I have two really young kids and a gorgeous husband. And I came here through a very, very windy path. For those of you that don't know, I have a PhD in epidemiology, and now I am a leadership and executive coach and a consultant in the social impact space, not just in global health. So really started my career in vertical disease programs, humanitarian settings, Somalia, South Sudan, UN, NGOs, all the things. Eventually made my way to Geneva, where I worked for the UN in HQ, and very quickly realized that I was not feeling fulfilled in my work. And I did a very, very big career pivot where I did not have the support of a coach. I did not know exactly why or what I was doing, but I up and just resigned from the UN. This is a different era. This is over 10 years, about 10 years ago. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to work in the private sector. So I moved to a strategy consulting firm, and I did strategy consulting in philanthropy and private sector for about 6 years. I was chief operating officer for a really incredible boutique firm. And then again, 6 years later, big pivot in my life where all of a sudden I did not feel an alignment in what I was doing anymore. And I quit. I took a life-changing sabbatical and I started the company I'm doing now. And I have taken 20 years of social impact experience across international development, humanitarian, philanthropy, consulting, UN, and put it into creating this coaching and consulting practice where now I help others find fulfillment, alignment, and balance in their lives. And that includes my life now as a portfolio career. So that includes consulting, coaching, courses, content, community. And I'm going to talk a little bit about all of those things today. So that's essentially how I got here. And truly, if you Google portfolio career right now, you will get many, many, many definitions. But I'm going to talk to you about what it's taken and where and how I've gotten to my portfolio career today and how you guys can get there yourselves. Hopefully with a little bit less resistance than I did over the course of my career path. So what the heck is a portfolio career? Essentially, the definition we're going to use today is multiple income streams and identities, okay? So this could be consulting, fractional or short-term roles, advisory or board roles. They could be paid, they could be unpaid, teaching, facilitation, content creation, communities, courses. In fact, you'll hear me talk a lot about somebody today called Amanda Getz. She's one of my coaches and somebody that I've worked when I've been helping to create my business. And she does not work in social impact at all. She's a former chief marketing officer. And she talks about the 5 C's of portfolio careers: consulting, coaching, communities, content, and courses. But actually, I add in way more because for me, teaching and facilitation, creative and community projects, volunteering, that all forms what I consider to be a portfolio career. And you know what, guys? I actually think a lot of you probably already have a portfolio career and you just haven't called it that yet. It's kind of a rebrand. Have you guys noticed that this term keeps popping up more and more and more these days? I have definitely noticed this. And I find it a little bit crazy that we never used to see this in the social impact sector. We really saw it more in a like private sector market, but now it's all of a sudden it's everywhere. Okay, guys, I just noticed that my camera did a funny thing. So let me just go off and on. Sorry about that. Okay. So what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to keep going. So why do portfolio careers work? Well, the first is the job market is super slow, it's saturated, and it's shifting. Every single person on this call does not need me to go over the highs and the many, many lows that we have had as an international development community this year. That started with the US, but has also gone across the globe. Everything around UN 80 and architectural shifts and budget cuts and job losses, hundreds of thousands of jobs have been lost. But on top of that, aside from the sector shifts, burnout is very, very real. And so therefore, so is the need for flexibility in the way that we design and the way that we talk about our careers. And this is really something that I am very, very passionate about, and that I really, really believe that we can curate our jobs and our lives in a way that maybe historically older generations didn't do. You know that stat, people will have 7 jobs in their lifetime? First of all, that's a very, very, very old statistic. And if you actually dig into it to try to find the original reference, it's very hard to find. I believe people of our generation, and I'm almost 43, will have dozens of jobs in their lifetime and sometimes at the same time. But in addition to that, consulting can fill income gaps, but it also can fill values gaps. So what's possible is that maybe what's going to happen is you are going to get some revenue streams that really bring you so much joy, but maybe they don't pay you enough to meet your lifestyle requirements. But maybe what will happen is you have a few revenue streams that pay you more to allow you to have different passion projects. So the sector is already portfolio based, but what we're doing now is talking about how to make that work for you. Sorry, guys, we're having a tech issue here where my camera keeps bugging. So don't mind me, I'm just going to keep popping off and on to fix that. Okay, so let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, or what I like to call the messy middle of portfolio careers. The good. This is all the things that people rave about when they get to be their own boss. Flexibility over your time and energy. And a few of you already dropped that into the chat that that's something you're excited about. Flexibility, autonomy, alignment with your values, picking the projects and the organizations that you really want to work for and with, and you're not just tied to one because it's your single income stream. So working for multiple organizations, also no single point of failure. I have clients that I work with this year who have been consultants or employees of USAID for the last 18 years, 20 years, 25 years, and look what's happened. So this is an opportunity to diversify the organizations and your experience. And that also means diversifying your revenue. So when there is instability or volatility in the sector, you have more options. And also, guys, also so you're not stuck doing one thing forever. We are not static human beings. We change. What brings us joy changes. And with that, we need to adapt as well. And so should our career. The thing that we wanted to do 20 or 25 years ago or 5 years ago might not be the thing that we want to do now. And that's okay. Okay, now the bad, the very bad about portfolio careers. Feast or famine cycles. And I put in brackets here, unless you plan well. I want to be totally honest. You can be the best planner in the world, but as an independent consultant with a portfolio career, being your own boss, you can be incredible at planning, and there can still be huge problems in your pipeline, issues with your clients, they don't pay their invoices, and you can still go through ups and downs. Now, yes, there are ways for us to insulate ourselves from those issues, and we can talk about that. But nonetheless, there are challenges to being your own boss, to having your own LLC, or to being a sole proprietorship, whatever your legal structure is. There can be challenges. The other thing is you are your own infrastructure, ops, admin, taxes, all of it. I'm not gonna lie, the number one thing I miss about being a full-time employee is having an IT department for things like today when my camera's not working. There is nobody I can call up to help me fix this. It's like me, myself, and ChatGPT and customer support lines trying to figure this stuff out. More than that, taxes, financial sustainability, working with all the service providers in your business. What about growing your business? How do you know when you should be taking on an associate or a marketing manager or an accountant or a lawyer? All these things, it gets really, really tough to figure this out. But it's possible, and we'll talk about what some of these solutions are. The bad, it requires clarity on your offer, your network, and your value. And I honestly can say here, guys, what comes in a lot is imposter syndrome. I work with a lot of people across international development, humanitarian, and social impact work, and they often say, I don't have anything to offer. I do the same job as 15,000 other people. What's different about me? And I can tell you right now that there's a lot, and that's your niche, and it's your UVP, your unique value proposition. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. And I have a trick to help you guys figure out what your UVP actually is. And then this one might sound, I don't know, a little bit pedantic, but quite frankly, it's not always easy to explain at a dinner party what you actually do. Okay, that sounds silly, but even explaining it to your mother or your grandfather or your partner, not always easy to just say doctor, dentist, aid worker. Oh, you have a portfolio career. Oh, it can get tricky, but we'll talk about how to respond to those challenges today. The messy, but also the very manageable. Okay, self-worth can sometimes be tied to your client pipeline. Just before getting on this call, Justin and I were having a little chat, and he said to me, Kelsi, how's your summer going? How's business going? And I said, great, I'm having an excellent summer. But you know what? It's actually pretty slow because a lot of my clients are on holidays. That's great. It means I take more holiday time, but that doesn't just affect my working hours, it affects my pipeline for how my work unfolds in September, October, November as well. And these are things that we'll talk about today. The messy benefits to all my American colleagues and friends out there. Healthcare. When you do not have a job, this becomes super complicated, but also pensions, insurances. Very messy and things you have to figure out when you work for yourself. Identity. People often assume that you are between things. And as I said, imposter syndrome hits super hard without a job title. But the reality is people are very uncomfortable with the unknown. And for those of us who take risks or pivots. Quick story time. When I left the UN about 8 years ago, I had a fixed term contract in the UN. I had worked 10 years to get it. I was on all the bad contracts, all the consultancies, all the instability for over a decade. Finally got that fixed term contract, but I was not happy anymore in my role. When I wanted to leave, my director could not understand why I was leaving. They were so deeply uncomfortable with a younger person taking a risk, leaving the stability of the UN. And this will happen when you're building your portfolio career. People might not understand what or why you're doing it. But only matters if you do. If you understand your why, that's what is most important. So these are very real, messy things, but they're all manageable with the right structure, the right support, and the right planning. Okay. Just a couple more things around mindset and fears and challenges, and then we're going to jump into some more practical steps. So common fears when we're embarking on a portfolio career. Once a consultant, always a consultant. I do not agree. Me personally, I have been an independent consultant. I have been full-time with the UN. I've worked for a private sector company. I've gone back to consulting in-house. I've gone out-house and back again a million times. I can tell you guys right now, this is not true. That's an old adage that no longer is applicable for our sector. Everyone else is doing it. How do I stand out? That's exactly what we're going to talk about today, which is your niche and your UVP. I have no idea what to charge. Oh yeah, this is a heavy one. And we touched on it a little while back in one of our Devex sessions with Justin and our colleague Loxen. And there's some great information out there on like how to bill your services. I talk about it a lot on LinkedIn. As a consultant, how do you project yourself on the market? And there's a lot of steps to go to figure that out. And we can talk a little bit about that later, but it is a very, very real fear for people that are becoming independent. I'm not expert enough. Oh my gosh, imposter syndrome. This is a huge one. But you know what? You do very much have your own unique brand, your own unique identity, and you'll bring that to your portfolio career. Planning your income. These are huge ones. All common and all very solvable. If you guys see other common fears that I haven't mentioned on here, please drop them in the chat. I'm always curious to hear what's coming up for you guys. Okay, the mindset. So this is a big one. When we're starting a portfolio career, we are shifting from job seeker to consultant independent mindset. So what we want to say here is you have the skills, we're just going to package them. We're focused on value, not just experience. Big thing is people often say to me, I'm too junior in my career. I can't have a portfolio career. I do not agree. It might be harder, you might have less experience, but you still have value to give. And today we're going to unlock and try to identify what that is. A lot of people think they need a website. And yes, I have a website. I've been doing this for a few years now, but a lot of clients I have say, oh, I have to get a website first. I completely disagree. Website should not be the first thing you should be doing. You should be identifying your product, how to package it, and getting out there and doing a sale. And once you have a client, okay, maybe we think about a website. So we're going to talk about that today in our quick start framework. And treating your network like clients, not just leads, but about partners where you can develop and build things together. And the number one most important mindset shift is you are not between things. You are a business and this is a real job. Okay. So real life portfolio combos. Here are a few. A strategic storyteller. This is somebody who maybe is coming from more of a comms background. Let's say they have 2 clients a year where they're developing a comms strategy. They teach a course at a university on comms for social impact, and they run a weekly newsletter. Looking at that diversity of profiles, you're seeing, the first thing that pops up to mind for me is, okay, fractional work, 2 clients a year. That's probably paying the bills. Because the first thing to do in consulting and portfolio work is to identify what is your minimum viable pay, your MVP for the month. How much do you need to cover your mortgage, your childcare expenses, food, groceries, etc.? How do you need to get there, and what do you need? You probably need some anchor clients or some retainer clients. That means the same thing. And that might be for this person, these comms strategy work. Teaching 1 course a semester. Sadly, we know teaching, as beautiful an experience as it is, doesn't always pay the big bucks, okay? So that might be something that you love to do, brings in a little bit of income, maybe once or twice a year. That's not paying all of your bills. Then we have a weekly sector newsletter. Maybe that's really the creative outlet. Maybe it's bringing in no income, but you know what it is doing? It's increasing your credibility, your awareness, and your brand, which is then bringing you more comms strategy clients. So you see, we're building out your ecosystem here as a strategic storyteller, and that's your brand of your portfolio career. Let's pick another one. The change coach. This is somebody who coaches one-on-one part-time, speaks at conferences, and picks 1 to 2 consulting projects a year doing organizational design. This is not far off from what I do. I do 1 to 7 consulting clients a year that bring in really stable income. I have one-on-one coaching clients plus group coaching programs. I also do speaking, paid speaking gigs, which is a new thing for me because for a long time I did a lot of unpaid speaking work. But I also add in here a little bit of teaching. I add in here my board work. Board work doesn't pay anything, but it brings me a heck of a lot of joy. I also have in here things like my newsletter and whatnot. So this is an idea of what a portfolio career could look like for you. Another one here that I think is really interesting is somebody who's really into advocacy. Maybe you've worked in advocacy for a lot of your life. Maybe you're doing a few facilitation contracts or grant making advisory. Maybe you're sitting on a few boards, some pro bono, some paid. Now, you guys might also hear me say something throughout this chat. I talk about pro bono and I talk about low bono. Very different things and things to be careful of in consulting. The more low bono you do, the more that becomes your standard rate. I personally don't do pro bono. I sit on boards in a volunteer capacity, but I do not downprice my services in a way that then devalues them for future client work. And this is something that we can talk about at the end. But these are real life portfolio combos. And if you guys see any other ones, please drop them in the chat. Or if you see any other things that you would add or question on this, please drop it in the chat. I'm happy to also pause and take a breath and answer any questions. Okay. And Justin, please flag if there's like a big question in the chat where I should stop and take a pause. Okay, guys, we're going to talk today about the core framework to build your portfolio career. 4 letters, an acronym, basically how to get started. Niche, UVP, services, and expressing your brand. If we can get these 4 things nailed down today, you guys are cruising, okay? First one, claim your niche. What I mean here is, what is a problem that you solve for and with whom? And a way to think about this is, what do people already come to you for? What issue or approach do you want to be associated with? And your niche isn't just necessarily your last job title. Okay, guys, we are way more than our job titles. Maybe that you are a M&E advisor at an NGO, but in your spare time, you love to do writing and copy editing. So are you going to build your portfolio career just on M&E? Probably not if you get a lot of joy out of writing. And this is where we get to be flexible. You can be all the things you want to be, but just knowing that not every portfolio within this career is going to be the same remuneration, the same level of joy, or the same time commitment. You get to choose it, okay? And this is where one of my coaches, Amanda Getz, comes in. She calls it the 10K test. What would someone pay you 10K, 10,000 US dollars for today without you having to go out and do a bunch of research, do a bunch of business development, anything like that? So stop and think about this for a second. What could you do in the next few hours without ChatGPT, Google, What could you talk about freely? What's your expertise? What do you know? What just comes flowing out of you without having to research, but also brings you joy? That's the 10K test. That's your niche. What lights you up, but also has market demand. And this is where we want to be known for something, but not everything. Because if you're known for everything, somebody's probably not going to come to you for that thing. They're going to go to somebody else in your network. Okay? And if somebody is super brave, I would love for you to pop into the chat. What is your 10K test? What is your niche? I'll tell you right now, when I started my portfolio career, my niche was very different than when I started. When I started, I was working with mid to senior level leaders in the social impact space who were looking for clarity, pivots, and job transitions. And now my niche has actually expanded into twofold. I help, yes, people with leadership and career pivots in social impact, but I also have an entire sector of people that I'm helping building a portfolio career because I've done it myself. Grace, thank you for being so brave. Nursing leadership development. That is actually really precise. I do a lot of these seminars. I've never had anyone pop that in there. If I could just push you a little bit further, I would ask you to pop in there. How do you do it differently than somebody else? What makes that truly your niche? Megan, disability inclusion, accessibility, and universal design for learning. Yes, I love this. And what we want to try to get into these niches, guys, is it's the intersection of your expertise, your credibility, and what is needed now. Okay, so try to keep that in mind. We're going to keep going, but we're going to come back to this. Own your UVP. This is where we're building on the niche that we built in the last slide. And now this is where we're actually going to take a few minutes to stop. Okay, there's a formula here. I help target audience solve problem by providing solution. Sounds simple enough, can actually be kind of hard to formulate. One cheat sheet way to do this, guys, is grab your CV, grab the last few job descriptions you've applied for, drop into ChatGPT, and say, what is my UVP based on my CV, my last 5 jobs, my educational experience, and some of these jobs that I'm looking to develop. See what pops out. And then ask ChatGPT to put it into this formula. So I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds to think about it, and I would love for some of you to drop it into the chat. So I help X solve Y by providing Z. And then where we're eventually going to get to is what allows you to be different. The second part of that sentence is, unlike alternative, my approach is different because differentiator. So let me give you my example. I help mid and senior level social impact professionals with lack of clarity, job pivots, or launching their portfolio careers by providing tailored coaching and consulting services. Unlike other coaches in this space, my approach is unique because I come with 20 years of experience doing this exact same work by myself, having never had a coach to help me do it. That's my differentiator. So Ruth,
Hey,
you're asking me to repeat. Oh, sorry, go ahead,
oh,
Justin.
oh no, I was just going to flag Ruth's question, but go ahead.
Yeah, Ruth, great question. And so I do this quite a bit in my sessions, is I'm like, oh guys, dump it into ChatGPT. And people always want me to give them the exact prompt to use. This is the beauty of ChatGPT. There is no exact prompt. You got to kind of massage it. So the first thing I would say is I hope that you have customized your ChatGPT to already use your voice in some way. And if you haven't, you can do that in your settings of ChatGPT. Once you're in there, I would drop in your CV. I would drop in the last like 5 jobs you applied for if you're still job searching, or the last jobs that you've held. And I would write in there to ChatGPT, please help me identify what could be my UVP if I were to embark on a social impact career, in a portfolio career in the social impact space. Okay. And say in there the things you might want to do: consulting, coaching, teaching, facility, memberships. Dump it in there and see what ChatGPT gives you. But Ruth, you got to massage it a little bit. Okay, I see some of you are dumping in here your UVPs. Hamda, I help development organizations design inclusive education and disability programs in Somaliland by applying decolonial lens and practice. I love this. And Hamda, already I know what your differentiator is that you are applying a decolonization lens, which a lot of other practitioners are probably not doing. So if I were you, I would absolutely lean on that part as a differentiator. That's going to make you stand out. Rebecca, just a flag that anything you put into ChatGPT is not private. Please be mindful about including sensitive info. Yes, that's like a good kind of like public service announcement there. Two things you can do. Everyone's probably thinking about the Sam Altman interview from last weekend where he said, yes, everything's not private. There are two things you can do. In your settings in ChatGPT, you go in there and there's a little click box where you click, I do not want my content to be used for LLM continuous learning. That means that your data is not directly being fed back in. That being said, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI this past weekend, did say in a public podcast in an interview that your data could be used in a court of law in terms of confidentiality. So those are two very different things. I use AI all the time in my coaching practice, and I have clicked the setting that means that what I'm putting in there is not going back into the LLM to be used. So I hope that flags your concern, Rebecca. Okay, guys, I love some of these. Leah, you just dumped it at ChatGPT. Love it. You're like doing it as we speak. Unique value proposition, a nationally recognized physician leader with public health strategist and a public health strategist with a rare blend of clinical credibility, political acumen, and systems innovation expertise. Yes, I love that. Rare blend. That's a great qualifier. Bringing 20 years of experience of frontline and leadership experience. Okay, you list a little bit some of the thematics like climate, Medicaid transformation. Okay, great. Founding director of OHSU. Okay, you're putting in there a little bit of your experience to boost your credibility, which is fantastic. I translate complex data, policy, and frontline realities into scalable health systems. Yes, I love it. So what's your differentiating factor? What makes you different than somebody else? It could be your dual training in family medicine and public health. It could be your experience. The one thing that I would sharpen there, Leah, and again, it was your first go at this, what makes you different to the next person beside you who also has the exact same educational skills? Our differentiating factor is not just our experience, not just our schooling, it's also how you've applied that in the real world, okay? But Leah, great job. Gotta love ChatGPT. Okay, we're gonna keep going, unless there's any other burning questions in the chat. I don't think so. Okay, we're at the R in core. So we're on step 3 of 4. Refine your services. This is like the meat and the potatoes. And what my clients always want to do is they want to skip to this one. But guys, I implore you, please do not skip the niche and the UVP and skip go right to your services, okay? Services will get there, but we need to understand your why and why you, and that's what we did in the last couple slides. So your offer is not your resume, okay, guys? Say it all with me. Your offer is not your resume because we don't want you to sell all the services. We want you to pick 1 or 2 that solve very real pain points that you can confidently deliver, that also fit your desired income and your time goals. Now, what I mean there is, I worked in humanitarian response for over a decade and I absolutely loved it. But you know what? That doesn't really suit my lifestyle anymore. I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. If I was flying off to Mogadishu and Juba and Kabul, which I used to do all the time, it would be very difficult for my family. And I might do that again one day, but for right now, I just cannot be traveling as much as I used to. So for me, on the ground M&E or on the ground work that I used to do would just not be as feasible. So what I want you to do is to consider a mix of short and long-term engagements that fit your lifestyle, okay? So what's interesting here is the ones at the top are all pretty standard, like international development jargon, capacity building, strategic planning, M&E, all that good stuff. When you get to the bottom, you're going to see a few more that are coming a little bit more from the private sector. Newsletters, courses, coaching. Now, a couple things that people often flag to me here is they're like, oh my gosh, everyone's a coach these days. I do not disagree. There are a lot of coaches out there. There's been a proliferation of coaches since COVID where a lot of people move their businesses online. Let's differentiate between highly skilled, highly qualified, highly trained and accredited coaches like myself and a lot of my peers in the sector versus people who are just throwing that out there on their website. Oftentimes what they're really doing is mentorship and they're not actually doing coaching. I am a professionally certified coach. I spent years becoming a coach, doing practicums, getting certified. That is very different. Courses. A lot of online courses these days, which allows you to have what we call evergreen income. which means it's a course on your website that somebody can download and you get income without having to do much. Sounds great, right? Sounds amazing. Actually, building a course is a little bit harder than you think. I'm in the process of doing it right now. Launching it is another thing, and getting people to your website to even let them know to buy it is another, but it is a very viable income stream. So one example is I was talking to a comms professional the other day who was laid off because of the USAID cuts. She's been a comms professional for 20 years. She is now designing courses to educate other NGOs and nonprofits who no longer have budgets to hire comms professionals to try to integrate those types of services into other roles within their organizations. So what that means is she has built these courses online that nonprofits can download. Pretty cool, hey? It's something that a lot of us probably never thought of in the humanitarian or development sector. So what skills do you have that you could package into a coach, into a coaching program, into a course that could be downloadable? It could be evergreen, which means it's just people can enroll and download whatever they want, or it could be cohorts a couple times a year. If you guys see anything in terms of services that you might provide that's not on this list, please drop it in the chat. I'd be super curious. I think a lot of things are listed there, but you never know. Bob, you have a quick question here. Advice for the reality of leads drying up in core fields. Devex members, talent pool usually to focus on. I'm not quite sure what is meant. Bob, if you could put a clarifying response there, Justin, if you know what he means there. I think what you mean in terms of leads, what I mean in terms of leads for business development, I believe leads come from your network. Yes, there are RFPs. Yes, there are job postings. There are fractional posts posted. What I believe is a lead is every person in your network, every person you've ever worked with who can say something about your work, who could potentially hire you. That to me is the business development side of a portfolio career. For me, a lead is also building your brand, talking online, speaking on LinkedIn, speaking on panels, doing events like this. That's also lead gen for your business and the ecosystem of your brand. Bob, I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, please drop it into the chat. Okay, we're going to keep going. Part 2 for refining your services. Time, energy, income. They're all super related. So what I like to do is to talk about seasons of focus. So there are delivery heavy months and there are visibility months. I'm really transparent around how I run my business, so I'll give you guys a few examples. During the summer, there's not a lot going on in terms of business development for me. I work with a lot of organizations where I have institutional contracts for coaching. I do a lot of philanthropy advisory for foundations. I do coaching with one-on-ones. A lot of people are off on the summer, so I take a lot of time off. So there's not a lot of visibility. There's not a lot of events. But September, October, tons of speaking events, tons of engagements, tons of conferences. There's UNGA, there's prep for Davos. There's all this stuff happening. So keep in mind there are seasons and you need to map your energy for that. When you run your own business, you cannot have the same energy 12 months a year. It just doesn't work. Believe me, I've tried it. It doesn't work. Income. Aim for 1 to 2 core offers or anchor clients to cover your basic needs. As I said, your MVP. What is your minimum viable pay every month to pay your mortgage, your groceries, your childcare, your healthcare, all those things? Try to get an anchor client and start with that before building out other aspects that might be more fun in your portfolio career. Energy. Balancing visibility, delivery, and recovery. So I'll give you an example of a model. So what a sustainable week looks like for me is I actually don't do client delivery every day. Coaching is actually really exhausting. I love it. It brings me so much joy, but it's like 4 or 5, 6 clients a day and you are depleted by the end of it. So I have 2 to 3 days a week where I do client delivery. I have 1 day where I do fully visibility and business development. Just so you know, that's not 1 full day. It's 2 hours every single morning when you see me online, on LinkedIn, doing branding, marketing, all those types of things. Half day of admin and ops, because honestly, guys, these businesses do not run themselves, unfortunately. And I have a half day or a full day of professional development where I'm learning, I'm reading, or I'm doing rest. And for me, that's really important because I have more than my work and it's taken me a lot of years to kind of redefine that identity. And I want to have energy on the weekend to be with my family. And so I do not work 5 days a week. I work 4 to 4.5. So just because you can do it all doesn't mean you should be doing it all. And this is where you need to refine your services vis-a-vis your time, your energy, and your income needs. Okay, E. We're at the last bit of the core framework. This is where I want you to build your brand. Now, the first thing is, and for those of you, you guys can look me up on LinkedIn. I actually just posted this today. I have been quoted multiple times by Devex, by the Career Pivot community, by Why Vota, by different people for this sentence that I always say, and it's that social impact people have a particular disdain for social media. And I know because I worked in humanitarian work for over a decade, and I was like, oh, I don't use LinkedIn. But you know what? It is a new world out there, guys. Personal brands are the new CVs, and you guys might be rolling your eyes, you might be cringing, but I'm telling you, you don't need to become an influencer overnight. But what I do need you to do is to start taking micro steps to think about what your personal brand is. And it's not just what you do, it's what you're known for. And your brand needs to feel like you. I want you to be your authentic self. I don't want you to be a robot. I don't want you to emulate what somebody else has done. But what I want you to do is to think about how your brand feeds into your portfolio career, which is your overall ecosystem of what you're known for. So, key questions you can ask yourself: what do I want to be known for in this space? What words or themes do I want people to associate with me? And what's the tone, values, or personality that I want to bring to my work? You are not just a product, you are a person with a purpose, okay? And key elements of your brand might include your voice, your visuals, your values, your vibe. I, for one, am like really high energy. I'm very transparent. I say a lot of stuff on webinars that a lot of other speakers will never say. I talk numbers, I talk income, I talk, relationships, I talk all the stuff. That's not for everyone. I even bring in aspects of my personal life on my LinkedIn, not oversharing, but I share what I feel confident bringing. That includes talking about my family. And so there are different things here where you need to identify what is your voice, what are you comfortable sharing, and in this crowded world of building brands online right now, what are you comfortable being and doing and showing up as? Okay. And that's going to help contribute to your brand, which helps build your portfolio career. Expressing yourself. I need you to be able to talk about your work clearly. A simple sentence like, I work at the intersection of A, B, C. Tailored to your audience. I do this type of work for organizations X, Y, Z. And it has to be clear, because if you are a portfolio career person like me and somebody says at a dinner table, what do you do? Oh, well, I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, and I teach, and I sit on a few boards, and I also am like really into Pilates, and I'm doing a Pilates teacher training. That sounds messy. It sounds chaotic. People are like, you're doing a million things, you must not be good at any of them. That's the first thing I would think. So you need to craft your story and you need to test it out. So practice writing a tagline, like a one-line version of yourself. So I consult, I coach, and I teach, all focused at the intersection of global health equity, because that's the career that I've built my career path on. Something like that. Have something that like really brings it in. For me, I coach, I consult, I teach, and I sit on boards, all at the intersection of global health. And I'm supporting mid and senior level leaders with the support that I never had when I was coming up in my career. That's what ties it together for me. That's my why. I want to make career paths more seamless for others in giving people the support that I never had. See what I did there? I tied in my personal story, my personal experience, which also helps you become more human. Because the reality is, in the world of ChatGPT, there's a lot of content out there, and people want these personal anecdotes. They want to get to know the real you. Okay, this is the meat and potatoes, guys. If you're going to do anything, if you're going to get anything from today, before you leap, 5 things to get in place. Clarity on your niche and your UVP. Okay, like I said, go to ChatGPT, dump in your CV, say you want to develop a portfolio career. What could be your UVP based on your skills, your experience, your interests? One clear offer that you can explain in a sentence. I help X do Y because Z. Okay, it's like your 10K question, but expand it into the services that you provide to help with a transformation. What is it that the people get from your services? That's so incredibly crucial. Runway. I say here 3 to 6 months of basic savings, because for me, anytime I've done a leap, that's what I felt comfortable. This is a very personal decision. And everybody is different, and some people don't have that leeway. But what a lot of people do is they're really strategic. They have their full-time work and they start with one offer and they start testing it. They start consulting on the side. That's the way a lot of entrepreneurs have built their businesses. They have one anchor client on the side, and until that is stable and consistent, only then do they resign from their full-time job. Knowing the devastation across the sector, a lot of people do not have that luxury right now. So what I would say is, You know your best, get your finances in order, but ultimately, the number one thing is having one anchor client to help support your basic needs. Support crew. This is where community comes in. Community is everything, whether you get that from the Devex Career Hub in these sessions or my community. We do, monthly free power hour sessions. We all get to know each other. We share our challenges. We go through different frameworks, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's a WhatsApp community. Find your people, a mentor, a coach, accountability partner. You don't want to be doing this alone. Entrepreneurship can be really, really lonely. Realistic expectations. There will be slow seasons and you need to prepare mentally and financially. It is not all smooth sailing in building a portfolio career, but the best de-risking strategy I can advise you on is to start while you're employed and soft launch just one offer. You're probably thinking, well, how the hell do I do that? Okay. What I want you to do is to soft launch and to start thinking about these 3 things over the next week. What do people already come to you for? This is your 10K test that we already talked about, guys. So we're building on all these concepts. What work energizes you, but could also pay you? And who trusts you enough to hire you or refer you right now? Take a second to think about these 3 things. Let me give you an example. You're a peace building consultant that's worked for USAID for the last 15 years doing deployments. What do people already come to you for? Peace building, technical advisory and strategy, and developing programs. What work energizes you? Maybe it's facilitation. Maybe it's like training local organizations and local actors and getting into localization. Maybe that's what energizes you. Who trusts you enough to hire you or refer you right now? Maybe it's a former partner, a former boss, a colleague, a donor. The number one thing that people say to me right now is everyone in my ecosystem has lost their jobs. And that is a very real thing. Try not to think about your last job. Go back 3 years, go back 5 years, go back to your alumni at school, go to your friends. A lot of people have lost their jobs, but there are still people that are employed, and go to them. Who knows you, who knows your work, and is happy to refer you. If somebody is super brave, drop your quick start framework into the chat on the 3 things that you're going to get clear on this week. And this is a coaching technique, guys. Just so you know, in terms of achieving our goals, if we say them in our head, okay, we might achieve them. If we write them down, the likelihood of achieving them goes up. We say them out loud, it goes up some more. Guess what? You tell somebody out loud the goal that you have. I'm going to run a 10K. I'm going to go to the gym every day this week. I'm going to cut out sugar. I'm going to test a portfolio career. I'm going to apply to 10 new jobs. The second you say it out loud and you tell someone, the accountability and the likelihood of it happening really, really increases. So if somebody's brave enough, drop it into the chat. Okay. And how does it all start? It starts with micro movements, guys, tiny little things. Nobody's going to become an influencer overnight. Nobody is going to blow up their portfolio career overnight, but it might start with just one tiny step. So what can you do in the next 24 hours to get started? Maybe it's testing a short-term offer with a past employer or contact, somebody from your network. Reach out to them and say, hey, I have this idea for a product offering. I want to deliver trainings for global health M&E practitioners based in the global south who can't afford, a full-blown consultant. What do you think about this offer? Do you have 10 minutes? Do you have 15 minutes where I can jump on the call and tell you about this? Message 3 people in your network about your availability. Say, hey, I just want to let you guys know that I have 20 hours a week fractionally over the coming months. If you have any work that I could, lean in on or support on. Post your UVP on LinkedIn. It's a scary one. I know people are scared of LinkedIn. You got to start somewhere, guys. Maybe you say, I'm looking to test out a portfolio career. This is my UVP. This is my niche. Do you guys have any work for me? Or what do you guys think about this niche? Ask your community. Draft your first service offering, just one. Don't spend hours doing it. Just get out a piece of paper and a pen and write down some notes. Block time to sketch out this work. Maybe you don't have the bandwidth to do it today. Maybe you're driving in the car right now listening to this session. But guys, I'm talking about progress over perfection. Think about one step you can do in the next 24 hours. Rebecca, any advice for portfolio work while also dealing with burnout and/or mental health challenges? Yeah, this is a big one. The first thing I would say is, Rebecca, you are not alone. I would say the majority of the people that I speak to right now across the social impact sector, we are all exhausted. We are exhausted from the news and the politics and the loss of jobs and seeing a sector that we have all believed in and loved and devoted blood, sweat, and tears to for decades fall apart, the first thing I would do and I would say is take a pause. And actually, I think Usha just popped in, take a break. There's a difference between a pause and a break. I know it sounds like semantics, but from a financial perspective, sometimes people just can't take an actual break. So what I like to say is partition your work. Take breaks. You can't look for work 7 days a week. You can't build your portfolio career 7 days a week. Treat job searching and business development for your portfolio career like a job. You work Monday to Friday. You have set hours. You take lunch breaks. You do not do it on weekends or whatever works for your lifestyle. But bake in breaks. Give yourself some grace. Find your community and find your mental health support access. There are a lot of complimentary and paid services out there for professionals in this space. Rebecca Dempster from Resilio is one actor. You can follow her online. She posts incredible resources online and she has lots of different communities and cohorts. There's a spreadsheet out there that's on my LinkedIn. It's called the Comprehensive Social Impact Resource Document. It's a crowdsourced Excel sheet that I started at the beginning of this crisis with Nick Martin and Aaron Ewert and a bunch of other social impact coaches where we just were dumping resources in there. There's coaches, there's mental health support platforms, there's recruiters, there's all sorts of stuff in there. You can find that on my LinkedIn. There's a lot of mental health support there. But Rebecca, the number one thing I would also say is to give yourself some grace. If you need to take a pause, whether that's a day, a minute, a month. And if you can, as Usha said, take a real break, but that is not always a luxury that everyone has. Vicky, you had a follow-up question. If you take a pause, what should you concentrate on to move forward? Oh my gosh, my dear, that is so context specific. I wouldn't be able to answer that just generically. I think one place you could start is on my website under resources. There's a tool there. It's called my Career Reset Framework. And it's basically the 8 steps to when you're doing a pivot. And the first one is to take a breath. The second one is to get your resources in order. The third one is to start looking at your values. It's to do all this pre-work before you start looking for work or building your portfolio career. And that's a good place to start because it helps you to slow down and just kind of take a breath. Hamda, I'm passionate about reimagining how we define and enact disability inclusive education. But by building on existing community strengths based on my field research with an NGO, I'm considering approaching them to explore how my insights could inform their programming. So Hamda, already what you put in there is a very clear, focused UVP, like what you want to do. What I'm missing there is what is the service that you actually want to offer? I would think about taking that and framing that into what is the service and how are you doing it differently? So even if you're approaching an NGO to help them do this, and you're building on your existing experience and strengths, what is the service and how is your service different to somebody else's? Okay. We have a few minutes left, so I will actually hand over to Justin just in case he has any questions or anything that I missed, but we have 7 more minutes, so happy to take more questions. There's no silly question. I would also love to hear from you guys. What's your aha moment from today? What's the one thing that you learned where you were like, oh my gosh, I did not think of this? I call those aha moments. I would love for you to drop it in the chat because it also helps me to kind of better understand, what everyone is going through and where you're coming from, all those kinds of things. And then last but not least, I have tons of resources on my website. You can scan this QR code. It'll take you right there. And the reality is there is lots of resources out there. There's the Devex Career Hub has tons of resources every week. I mean, Justin, the amount of reporting and things that you guys are doing is so helpful. There's YN Vota's Career Pivot Community, which is incredible. There's the USAID Resource Hub, which you can see online on LinkedIn. There's so much stuff out there for people that are transitioning, whether it's consulting and portfolio work or something else. So I really encourage you to reach out to others and ask for help. That is sort of like my one mantra whenever I talk to anyone who's doing a pivot. Leah, your aha moment is that you have normalized all the messiness of starting this work. It's validating and gives courage. Yeah, this work is not easy, man. It does take courage. And you know what? There are highs and there are lows, and there's going to be all the ups and downs. But in the end, having the ability to manage your energy, manage your work with the clients that you feel aligned with in terms of integrity and impact, that is everything to me. I appreciate that so much. And that's why I love having a portfolio career, even with the good, the bad, and the messy. Justin, do I have time to take like one or two more comments?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, you keep going. Yeah,
Okay.
take a few more. I'll just cut it. I'll cut in when we have about a minute left just to wrap it up.
Okay.
But yeah,
Perfect.
keep going as long as people have
Okay.
questions. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Grace, how do you turn existing relationships where you've been in the volunteer space into revenue generating ones sensitively? Nonprofits have small pools of funds. Yeah, absolutely. Grace, this is such a good question. So, a few things here. So, I always say that your network are your leads, but we don't want to do like icky sales. Self-promotion is already really hard, and people coming from the nonprofit world, when we say the word sales, marketing, brands, people always go, ugh, they get like the big ick is what I call it. So a few things here. We want to be sensitive, but also just as a nonprofit has a limited budget, you as a service provider, you have a limited budget as well. There's only so much time that you can give away low bono or pro bono. So use your integrity, use your emotional intelligence. And Grace, when there is somebody that you've been providing these services for a period of time, be very communicative, be very clear. Say, I love engaging with you guys. I love supporting these projects. I'm able to continue to do so for XX amount of time pro bono, but at some point, I'm not going to be able to offer these services at this rate anymore. But I'd love to hear if you had the budget to pay for my services. Or if not, maybe I can recommend you to somebody else who could, step in and do this volunteer work. The reality is it's about being communicative, it's about being respectful, but also don't go into volunteer commitments expecting that they're all going to turn into paid work. Some of them might and some of them might not. This is why I really, really encourage people not to spend too much time on pro bono activities with the assumption that they lead to work, because they don't always. Okay. And you're right, nonprofits do have set budgets, but there is something about getting the work, getting the contacts, getting the leads. And guess what? Maybe they can't pay you, but maybe that nonprofit recommends you to the next nonprofit saying, oh, I have a great consultant for you. So, it goes both ways. There's something that I talk about a lot, and it's this align networking framework that I use. And one of the steps in there is called give before you get. So, this idea of creating your network, creating your ecosystem, supporting people online, being a good community member, supporting others, give before asking for something so that once you need something, you've already built up that EQ and that social capital. So, that goes into this idea of also you are more than just one service. Your network are your leads, but also in a way that has integrity. You're not just out there doing sales all the time either. So Hamda, a key takeaway for me is the importance of applying a business lens and using more strategic language. Yeah, it can be really hard to make that shift, but it's a mentality shift, okay? So keep in mind, you are not just a consultant, you are a business. It's okay to do, pro bono opportunities, lead gen, do webinars, do community events, all these things with the idea of, is it helping my brand? Is it increasing my credibility? And could it lead to clients down the road? Okay, I think I have one more I can take. Luis, any thoughts on how all of this applies to someone who has 35 years of international development experience and is 63 years old? Yeah, Lewis, I've actually connected with a lot of people across the sector over the last few months who were approaching retirement or already retired when some of these shifts happened. And I actually think retirement age is a great place to start investing in a portfolio career. You have so much experience, so many networks, and use that. Go to people and say, oh my gosh, I've got 35 years of working in the sector. I want to help you. Especially if you're at retirement where your number one goal is not just income generation. What you can do is to say, I'm willing to do this for the sake of value, for the sake of engagement, for the sake of like connecting and keeping busy. Your value proposition is going to be a little bit different than someone who's an early career social impact professional just coming out of school, or even somebody who's mid or senior level. So Louise, use that as part of your story and your narrative and use it to your advantage. Okay, Justin, we got like 1 minute left, so I'll hand back over.
Perfect. Oh man, that was so good. This also you made that job very easy today. I got to sit here and listen and learn a lot myself. Because I'm
Glad.
also sort of in a portfolio career mode at the moment and have been in the past. So really, really great stuff. So thanks everybody. And yeah, we got to pretty much all the questions, most of the questions, and yeah, such a great overview. And I love the engagement we had from our audience. And thank you, Kelsi, for sort of yeah, bringing that energy and getting people really, really into it. I think that's a great way to get a lot more out of these sort of sessions we do. So thank you, Kelsi. I'll give you a chance to say bye and any final words of wisdom for
Yeah,
our audience.
no,
Yeah.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Devex. I love these sessions. Oh my gosh, the questions are always so articulate and so diverse and varied. And I just love connecting with all of you. So jump over to LinkedIn, follow me there. I post a lot of great free content, resources, tools, frameworks. You can connect with me on my website as well. Please fill out the post-session survey that Justin and his team will send around so we know how to make these sessions better for all of you, or if you have particular topics you want to hear, we're always happy to curate something that works for all of you. And last final words, you are not alone in any of this. We are all just trying to figure it out. So bon courage, as I say here in Geneva. And yeah, looking forward to connecting with all of you outside of this session.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelsi. And thanks again to everybody. A reminder, we will send out the full event in a few days, and you'll get a chance to go back and watch if you want to revisit any of these, especially the exercises. Take some extra time on some of those exercises. That'll be a great way to do that. So on that note, thanks everybody. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.